I want to start with a few comments before I even do this. I want to thank Jordy, if he's still here, for stealing all of the swear words from in the last session. So there are none left for me. I want to thank Nate for stealing my heartfelt thanks for having us here, because he did that already today. Rasmus for stealing my grumpy old man act. I can't do that now either. So I'm just going to go with my little meme pictures and stuff and hope that it works out. So yeah, you might notice I have two laptops, one of which is actually a large desktop, and that's because I'm not prepared. So thanks, Adrian. Okay, so the title is Upcycling, which we'll get to that in a second, and it's really just about how to stop obsessing over your code a little bit and get to the more important things. So I'll just get into it. We'll see how it goes. So at some point in your career, every one of you will work on old code. More likely than not, it will be difficult to understand. It will probably be poorly documented, and it will likely have no test coverage at all. You will not enjoy it. It's also quite likely that you yourself will have been responsible for the creation of this code. I don't know if this translates to Spanish, but karma is a bitch. And so, we all did dumb things in the past. I'm a lot older than several of you. And I wouldn't have listened to my 25-year-old self would not have listened to me either. So it's no sense. You're going to go through it. But everything starts so simple, right? Like your project starts really simple. The whole team fits in one little room, or a hangout, and it doesn't auto mute because you have more than 5 people. The business plan might be on a page or a sentence, or whatever. You can see the entire code base in your head, right? Because there's not that much to it. But over time, especially if you're somewhat successful and things happen that you don't expect, things get a lot more complicated. So you end up meeting two kinds of changes, right, that you need to deal with. One is the technical changes, right? So updating third-party components, your version of Apache. If Igor's here, sorry, we're not on anything but Apache yet. So doing these things causes downtime, gets you yelled at, wastes your time chasing stuff instead of having fun and adding features. But this is all stuff that you already kind of know how to deal with on a daily basis. The other one, of course, is that guy. Business changes, right? You sold what? You told them what? Okay. But other good things, right? You gain a partner. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I love your thing. I want to whatever. And now all of a sudden you have to turn left and do different things. You might sign a big customer, or you might need to make a pivot, right? Those things can alienate your existing customer base. They can screw up your page rank big time, or they can give your competitors a hole to come after you with. So what you find yourself doing, if you're around for any period of time and wrestling with all these things over time, is you eventually figure out that you're going to spend as much time keeping all the plates spinning, right? Keeping everything kind of as you are charting the course, right? So we want to be over here, but we end up over there quite a bit. And so this shouldn't be anything new to anybody. I'm bumming you out, I can tell. But don't be too upset about it. This is actually your reward. It's your reward for building something that people want, to buy it or use it or buy through it or click on or shoot exploding birds at green pigs, right, or whatever. So the mark of success is that people care enough about your product or your service that when you change it or take it away, they get really mad. That's actually the compliment. So congratulations, you made it. And anybody's seen this movie? So they all escape, right? They're all woohoo! And then the fat one's well, now what? Right? What are we going to do now? So the purpose of my talk today is not any of the following. I won't do any of these things, I promise. I'm not going to give you any oversimplified techniques or concepts that you wouldn't already know or couldn't find on Google in 30 seconds. I'm not going to preach some kind of purist nonsense about, you know, the Zen of TDD or the Nirvana of Agile or the one true way to design whatever. And I'm definitely not going to show you any code. If you haven't already had your fill of syntax highlighted slides, you may need to see a doctor. I've seen quite a few myself. My talk is not about how to write this code or how to do this thing. It's just really about trade-offs, and it isn't even going to teach you anything. It's really just going to give you the perspective of somebody who's been doing this for a long time, so that maybe if this is something that's been bugging you, you'll understand a little bit better. So the company I work for now is well past the happily ever after moment where it became a successful product. It's been making money for a while now, and so our challenges really look more like this. How do we keep the money coming in? How do we do cool new stuff? And then how do we avoid being crushed under all of that, right? Because it's not extremely simple. So now I'll tell you about the title for a second, upcycling. It's a trendy word. Tony chose it. He actually chose it before I knew what I was going to talk about. So I had to make it work. But it's a neat thing, and I'll give you a neat example in a minute. It's a trendy word, and it's really a description for making something cool out of whatever you have, right? So you work with whatever they hand you. So you've got some dirty jars, and you've got a garden lamp, like a solar lamp, and you make something that's useful and somewhat valuable, in spite of it maybe being junk, right? And I'm not talking about your code in particular, but of course, someone else's code is junk. So making something like this happen, it's full of real trade-offs and imperfect results, right? Those are things that characterize actual software projects, especially when they get out of their awkward teen years and they're, kicking them out of the house. Real projects have limits, they have problems, they have junky code, and lots of things we can't change, right? We're not allowed to change. So our approach to them needs to be realistic, it needs to be really pragmatic, and it needs to accept imperfection, right? I know that we're drilled kind of up and down every day to expect, even demand, like the super duper test-driven perfection, the automated deployments, the friction-free sprints. I mean, I've heard a lot about that too. Chasing that, though, might really screw things up in the short term, right? Keep you from real progress and real success. I'm certainly not preaching against those things. It just needs to be okay for them not to happen like right now, today. So let me give you a little bit of a background about GForge. It's the company that I work for. I'll start with the disclaimer that I love this company and the product. I'll probably say it again, but I'm saying it now so that when I bitch about stuff later, you'll remember that I do love the product. I was a customer, actually. It's over 10 years old. It's more like 15, really, depending on what the date of the fork was or whatever. So I was actually a customer of this tool for about 8 years before I left the job I was in and joined GForge. I really like the team that we have. We've got a very small group of extremely effective people, and Tony too. And we're kind of all over the place. So one of our coders, Mario, lives here in Buenos Aires. And one of our other guys, Adrian, lives in Rosario, and Tony and I live in Iowa. If you want to know where that is, you can see me afterwards. The reason I'm kind of going off on it is, if I didn't mention it, we're hiring. We're actually looking to interview maybe a couple of people before we leave. Monday and Tuesday we'll be around. I really love the feature set that we have. It's extremely deep. It's extremely flexible. And it includes a lot of things. And I wrote scalable, and there's kind of two kinds of scalability, and I really mean way more functional scalability, way more what you can do with the tool. It certainly scales just fine in terms of performance, but what you can do with it is extremely important over time. I think that many shops that you guys are in now and that you will work for in the future eventually need things that GForge does that a lot of other vendors don't. And so I think that that is something that really kind of drives all of us to get up every day and add new stuff and make it pretty and, demonstrate it to, 150 people this weekend. That I think that Adrian and Mario just talking over and over again all day long. So I will probably, like I said, repeat the I love GForge because you may stop believing me later. So the next thing is that while we're a technology company, we're really into geeky stuff and all that, we're really not very much like most, so there's sorry, I forgot that one. We're really not like a lot of tech companies. We kind of don't fit in a lot of ways because we're not a startup. So like, at least if you're a startup, you can say, you never heard of us? Oh, we're a startup, it's fine. But you never heard of us, but we've been around a long time. So we tried to go to those startup pitch competition things. Our product was as old as some of the competitors, so it wasn't a great fit. We're not disrupting the social eating micropayment crowdsourced fair trade polo shirt market. That last part's true. There is a fair trade polo shirt market. I can show you where it is. We're not really looking for investors, right? We have a working product. We have like 100 customers. Some of them are gigantic, like huge. And they're really happy for the most part. So we have a really powerful tool that works really well. It's got lots of features. So, we've had a lot of success. The other thing that we have that is on the not so good side is we have a very, very long-lived code base that has undergone lots and lots of changes over time by lots of people. And so that is a big challenge for us. So some of the current challenges that we have. So we use GForge every day to plan, coordinate our work, review our changes, work towards releases. We roll code several times a week to gforge.com. That's where we do what we do. And then we have a bunch of customers that install it too. We've added a ton of new features and enhancements over the last 18 months. Stuff like drag and drop document management, live integrated chat, customer support features. But we are still our own harshest critics, obviously. And some things just kind of suck, and I wish they weren't the way they are. So first thing, it's too clicky, right? Everything's a link, everything's a button with another button followed by another page. It's just too clicky. It's the opposite of a single-page application, right? It's not that at all. The back-end code is written in a very tightly coupled way. Inside, in some cases, the display page itself, right? So they're round-tripping pages. There's not good separation there. It makes it hard to work with. And like all good enterprise-friendly products from the early 2000s, we have a SOAP interface. So has anybody here used SOAP? Anybody use SOAP from jQuery, maybe? What? It's kind of like, I found this picture, I love it. This is what popped into my head, right? Like, oh, we're going to use SOAP from jQuery. Yeah, no, not so much. Right? So, one of the big things that we know we need, right? We need REST, JSON, XML, whatever, but we need a REST API badly. There's no real componentized page templating stuff, and it makes theming complicated and error-prone. So basic UI updates are, difficult to do. And so all of that obviously needs to go away. So we have a plan, right? We have a wonderful and glorious plan for the great new code. So it's all this stuff that you've seen people talking about all weekend, right? Composer and PHP. Well, if Rasmus is here, it's definitely 5.5. I don't want to get yelled at. So, all the great jQuery Bootstrap. So it won't be Knockout, Nate. If you're here, it will be Angular, of course. REST API, all that good stuff. I know Keith Casey's not here. So the Hadios thing, I don't know about that. I don't care. Tons of test coverage, right? Continuous integration, continuous deployment. Great. That's going to be fabulous, right? If we're doing really good, maybe we'll get one of those Travis badges. That'd be kind of cool, right? But that's going to take a while, right? We started it a while ago, and we've got chunks of it written, and it's going good. But we know the rest of it's going to take a year and a half, right? So what do we do until then, right? Like, how does that work? In the meantime, we still have existing customers. We still have existing demands, right, from those people that are paying us money, right? So what do we do until all this is ready? So the meat of this is really, I'm just going to show you some examples of things that we have done over time, of being crafty and taking a dirty jar and sticking a solar lamp on it and making people happy with it. So I'm going to start with the first basic option, right, which is the forklift. Everybody knows what a forklift is, right? No? Mario, help me out. Forklift. Yell. Quickly. You got it? There you go. Thank you. So in telecom, a lot of times when they upgrade something like cell towers or whatever, they call it a forklift upgrade. They just pull the whole thing out and they stick the new stuff in. And that is often kind of the conclusion that we all jump to too, right? Like, we're like, oh, this code is crap. I need to rewrite it. It'll be so much faster. And you're usually going to be wrong, right? It's not always faster. It's not always cheaper. It's not always better. It seems like a really good, compelling idea, because it just seems like, oh, I could just do better like this time, right? Well, why is it so attractive? Code is a lot harder to understand than it is to write, right? Was anybody here for the regular expression session? Right. So code is a lot harder to read than write. And so the path of least resistance, the things you can do right now, it always seems to be like, oh, I'll just start over. I'll do it my way, the right way, right? But there are all these great case studies that you can read out there by folks like Steve McConnell and Joel Spolsky and Steve Atwood about companies, right? Like whole companies, whole products that like blew their VC money or blew a huge lead in the market on the big rewrite. They already had something running, working, shippable. The product that they were shipping did things that the rewriters maybe didn't know about or they forgot, with business rules and optimizations that weren't immediately apparent to the rewriters, and that they had to rediscover all over again on the clock. So this is my other favorite picture. Ready? Wait for it. Yeah. Have you ever been on this team? Oh, I love it. It's so great. So there are some very obvious and large advantages to the forklift, right? It's a clean break. You get to use the latest, the most popular, well-supported tools, good communities, all the stuff that's dying on the vine that you already have can go away. A lot of things that you worked hard for in the old code may even come for free with new framework, new widgets, new data layer, right? They just do more stuff. So an example of this was our old document management module. And it used to look like that. It had a lot of clicky. You had to click down through things. You didn't really get a sense of true navigation. And because it was hierarchical, it could get really deep really quick for people. But it had very little in common sort of UI and behavior-wise with the rest of the site. The document management aspect was very different in its behavior. So it was actually surprisingly good choice for a forklift. So Mario actually was kind of his baby on that. Sorry, I'm going to navigate here. So the way it looked afterwards was a little bit cleaner, still visually consistent with the overall theme of the site. But what we got was drag and drop. So if your browser supports it, you can grab your file system explorer window, you can drag your file up, it uploads, right? You want to drag it down, it downloads. So this is perfect for project managers who don't understand the difference between their browser and their desktop, right? They can just drag stuff and it's great. They're happy. It used to be right? We used to have to tell, oh, you have to click the upload button or whatever, and then you have to go find your file, and project managers do not have the attention span for that. So not only can you add the files and remove them very easily with drag and drop, but you can drag folders and files inside the web interface, right? So this is all just good stuff, and we got it, I don't know, for free, but it wasn't that hard. All the CRUD is done via AJAX calls, right? So when you move something in your web page, it doesn't reload. It's like calling back to the back end and fixing it, and that's great. It uses client-side template rendering. It's been out, Mario, 2 years? 2 years? It's great, right? Everybody loves it. There were some nagging bugs, right, for a while after launch. Stuff that didn't get ported properly, new features maybe we hadn't thought through. And the other big kind of drawback is when we go do the great new code thing, this isn't going to work. It's not the newer technology that we want to go with. The AJAX calls are kind of one-offs, right? They're not part of a REST API that's going to be uniform and tested. So we're going to end up kind of ditching all this again and doing it all over again. Now, it was totally worth it, right? Because it's great and we get usage out of it for years. And so this is not a perfect solution, right? But it's a very pragmatic one. The cost clearly was worth the benefit in this case. Okay, so next. Option 2, side by side. So our giant great new code itself, well, it's the foundation of the great new code, right? We're going to do all this UI stuff. We're going to move to single page app. We're going to have responsive layout. We need to actually start with a loosely coupled back end, and the REST API is the right place for us to start. So there's a lot of pluses to this. We get to start using those technologies now. We get to start using continuous integration, injecting better quality, and even deploying it automatically, which we do today for our own usage. Another big one is, right, you got to keep everybody interested. If you just stay with whatever you got forever, guys are going to get bored, people are going to take off, you don't keep your best talent. You've got to give people something new to chew on all the time. So there is a balance there, obviously. There's nothing better than busting out a tight unit of work, seeing green lights after a long day slogging through maintenance. So it's good to switch your focus for a minute and hit the button and see the green light and be like, all right, So the other thing is we have a lot of other kind of side projects that are not the big UI change, but that could benefit from REST API. So we have little JavaScript widgets. We have stuff for the GForgeGroup.com, like the corporate site where we want to talk to GForge database. Maybe some DevOps kind of integration stuff, right? A bunch of fun little stuff that we can do. So we can get real usage out of the REST API while we're finishing building it, and then get some benefit along the way. So that's the second one. Obviously, there are some trade-offs, right? It's going to take a long time, during which we're going to be working in 2 code bases. You're going to add a feature, going to fix a bug. You're probably going to fix it in 2 places. Spending time on the future, which is REST API, comes directly at the cost of the present, right? Which is supporting the current code, making all the right things happen. I guess everyone has to eat their vegetables. Maybe that's what that is. Because of the tightly coupled code in the current front end, there's really no sense retrofitting the current UI to use REST API. So we really can't even start on the big UI update until the REST API is done, or else the site's going to be really patchworky, inconsistent, not worth doing. Most of the customers won't really see or get a ton of benefit out of the REST API or the new code until it's all done, until the UI is done, right? Some customers have already told us they're ready to use it, and they're going to be our early adopters, and that's great. But it's just not going to be this huge improvement for a while. So it's an investment that we have to make, and we have to kind of do other things along the way as we're doing it. Obviously, we'd love to do this immediately so we can move on to the fun. But since it's manageable and predictable, we can decide how much of the REST API we're going to get done on any given day. We can just plan it and keep balancing it against the other priorities over time, right? What the customer's needs are today, we can spend time on that. We can spend time getting ahead of those needs with the rest of the week. So that's the REST API, the side-by-side. So kind of live with both things for a while. And if you're thinking about, well, what about like wrap and replace? That's the same as this. It really is. And if you want to argue about it, that's great. I'll argue with you later. Third one is actually live with it, right? That doesn't sound like we're making things better, but we're also not making things worse, right? And sometimes that's important. So this might be a good time to remind you that I love GForge, right? You should too, and you should work for us if you're really good at this. This is the option that no one wants to talk about. And sometimes it's like this. So again, if Nate Abeli is in the audience, this is for you. This is one of my favorite quotes, right? Like, I'm a grumpy old guy. Except I'm saying something really positive, right? Like, he didn't say, yippee, I love democracy. He was like, well, it sucks, but everything else sucks more. And so sometimes doing nothing is actually better than doing something. And as developers, I think that's hard to swallow sometimes, right? Like, you kind of look at it and you go, I could fix this. And then you're like, it's like midnight, your wife's really mad at you. And it's way more broken than it was when you started, right? So at that point, you thank God for Git. You just Git checkout and you go home. So it's really not a fun or a sexy thing to talk about, but it might be predictable, right? It might remain profitable and money, you know? So I know you don't like maintaining old code for a long time, right? So for the managers, the owners, the project managers, and other people who have absolutely no sympathy for developers, this is your third best option fun-wise, right? And that's a big deal. I mean, that's, if you value your team like you should, then, you know, that needs to be something that you value. So fun. All right. So the other big trade-off, right, is the team development. So not only the team working together, but them learning new things, remaining valuable. Obviously, it's an impact on that if someone's just stuck maintaining code all day. I don't know, answering customer tickets, Adrian? Right? Okay. So the theming system in GForge is good for like two things. One, it's good for putting your logo in the top left corner. We're good at that. We know how to, Mario knows how to do that. And second, it's good for not changing anything else about the theming component because you don't want to. You don't want to see what happens when you do that. The code's got inline styles. There's inline HTML coming from back-end code. There's no class names. The DOM hierarchy's all wrong. So there's just a lot of things that make it really hard to consistently change the look and feel of the site. Colors, yes. Logo, yes. But a lot of other things, God forbid you want something at the bottom that's at the top. That's just not going to happen. So we looked at it. We talked about it. And we said, you know what? We're going to leave that alone. We do maintenance tasks sometimes to freshen up the look of a specific screen or a widget. And we do our best at that time to style it so that it can be worked on. But we're really kind of just treading water on this because there's not nearly enough value in reworking it to justify the cost until we do the big UI rewrite. So, okay. Too risky. Okay, so the wrap up. See, it's going really quick. I said at the beginning I wasn't going to tell you anything you didn't already know. But we inherited a real piece of software. It's very long-lived. It's successful. And we've had a whole big, huge heaping helping of kind of real-world trade-offs to make. And that, to me, was the most interesting thing that I could get up here and talk to you guys about more than any kind of technical thing, any bash script or PHP, whatever. Because your goal in developing a product, in starting up a business, in building something new, whether it's open source, commercial, trying to make money, trying to whatever, your goal really is just to get back to that, right? Yay, like everybody's downloading our stuff, yay. Okay, now what? Now, all of these real world kind of things come to bear on you because now people want your stuff and they get mad when you break it. Right, Jordy? So, if you remember my example about the upcycling, this is a real thing. This is actually a member of my extended family. She does it all by herself. She's had thousands of sales in the past few years, and almost all of them on Etsy. And she's made some good money. It's got nothing to do with her actual career, but it's just something she likes to do, and it worked really well. This is kind of how I see what we do at GForge kind of every day. We win a little bit every day. We add cool stuff. We fix problems. We add new customers. We make them happy. And we do it every day. Like, it's just like this every day. I can see that same process kind of playing out forever. Not until our Series B funding, not that we're hoping to be bought, not hoping to land the one giant customer or whatever. It's really just like, it's the now what, we got it every day. Like, we just kind of go and do cool stuff. Some of it's really kind of real world, not so much fun, but 90% of it's really awesome. And the stuff that we're going to be doing is, even more fun. So I will just say one last time, we are hiring. You would love to work with us because we're like a lot of fun. And if you're not going to work for us, that's fine too. I hope you all find something like what I've been talking about today. I hope you are all very lucky and happy in what you do. So that's it. Thank you very much. You got some contact information there if you care to get in touch with us. Thank you.